Welcome to your High Vibe Tribe. It is Friday the 13th. Did you see that one coming?
No, I didn't realize it until yesterday.
We have our amazing guest with us here today, Tigerilla, Gardenia from Italy. How beautiful is that? Love it. What time of the day is it there?
It is 11 p.m.
Oh, it's nighttime. Oh.
Yep.
It's like that for South Africa too. We have Priscilla with us.
Hello. I've already got the bewitching hour. It's midnight here in South Africa.
On Friday the 13th.
But I'm already gone past Friday the 13th. I'm on Saturday the 15th.
You're
the day
gonna,
ahead of the world.
it's nighttime for you also. I think you're even closer to bed than Tigerilla is.
Yes.
And then stepping back, I think I'm next. It's 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah?
I'm going to wait that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Eastern, Florida. We just got through a hurricane. Tropical storm. Etta. Yeah. And just below me is Janie. Woohoo!
Yeah, sure.
Hello, lovely. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Lovely. So you are Pacific
3
time
o'clock.
right now?
3 o'clock.
Mountain,
Yes.
Central.
Arizona time. So we're
Wow.
on Mountain.
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 Yeah.
Mountain. Awesome. Welcome everyone here for your High Vibe Tribe. Holy cow, have we been fired up this week for sure.
Yes.
So much has transpired. We had our 11/11/2020 this week as well.
Yeah.
Huge transformation ascension. Did you guys feel that?
I did, definitely. Well, I did a double one. I did my 11/11 for South Africa, and then I joined the Avala tribe in the US when they did their 11/11 portal activation. So I had double, 2 for the price of 1.
Because you're actually almost a day ahead of us, right, Priscilla?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm already on Saturday the 15th, so I'm past my 13 already. So
That's right. You're into 1 a.m. So it's the 14th for you.
yes,
All right. Yeah. So how was the 13th?
it was fun. I had a brilliant day.
Lovely, lovely. Let's see. We have some people already viewing us. We love it. Thank you, viewers. Absolutely. We love having you here. Give Facebook permission to let your name and your picture show up. That way, we're able to see who you are and where you are hailing from. So give StreamYard permission to do that, and then we will get all of you in on the feed with us, and we're able to pull up your banners and show what you're talking about and questions that you have for the tribe and for our special guest, Tigerilla, all the way from Italy. Woohoo! She's got some plant power that she's going to be sharing with us today. So excited to have you here. Incredible way we met. Unbelievable. Everybody take a minute on Facebook and share this live stream right now. Take it right from the group. Click share and post it on your Facebook page. And we can do that using our phones right now also. Share it in a group. If you've got a fabulous group that you love, if you have a fabulous group that you run, go ahead and share that there. And we're going to let everybody know all around the world that this is happening, that we are here, that this is live. We are your High Vibe Tribe. We are here to shift and uplift your reality, your possibilities. We're here to eliminate the things that no longer serve you, pattern interrupters as consciousness revolutionaries, to gift you the real, right, and relevant information and awarenesses that you require in changing where you are now to where you'd like to be in the future. So thank you so much for giving StreamYard permission so we can see who you are. Let us know where you are viewing from. Put that in the chat so we can see that as well. So excited. We've got some people we can say hello to already. Let's see. Tammy is with us. Love it. I said she did it. She gave him permission, and we can see her name and her picture. So cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see, who is this that's saying hi? Hi from New Zealand. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
This is what happens when you don't give StreamYard permission. We can't see who you are or have your name, so it's a mystery Facebook user. Love it. Who else is with us? Caroline Pierce. Hello, Caroline.
Hi, Caroline. It's my sister all the way from UK. Hi.
Love having you here. So excited. Excited. That's your sister, right?
Yeah, that's my sister.
Awesome. Awesome. Tammy is coming in from Tacoma, Washington, so it is way even further west. Yeah, than you are, Janie. Very cool. So glad you're all here. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Facebook user. We're so happy you are here. Glad to have you. We lost Priscilla for just a minute, but I'm sure she will be back. Sometimes the internet does that. It increases and decreases and pops people in. Yeah, so excited. Hello, 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 everyone. So glad you're here. Love it. We have Sabu who's here with us. Hello, ladies. Hello, glad you're here. Tammy says it's 2 in the afternoon for her, almost 12 hours to you, Priscilla. So happy, so excited you're all here. Well, before we get to meet our guest here today, Priscilla, we have some brand new Facebook group members that we would like to personally invite to join us. So I know you have your list there, and I think it's a magical number this week. And we have the same amount of people watching our live stream as we have new members.
Yes, we do. We have wonderful new members this week, and it just keeps getting better and better. So, with no further ado, I'll introduce all our new members, and that is, I'm going to have to put my glasses closer. Okay, so we've got Carolyn James. Hi, Carolyn. Alan Schwartz, Ruth Bengwani, Michael Phillips, Sharon D'Angelo, S.K. Ether, Holly Fanning, and Dean Cornerio. And that's our list. Yay! Hi, guys. Welcome to the tribe.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad you are all here with us this week. How cool is that?
Absolutely amazing.
Love it, love it, love it. Incredible. So one of our High Vibe Tribers is not able to be here this week. It's Ashley Mulchin. She just turned a big super number with her birthday this past week. And in doing that, she has chosen to go stealth and created a silence workshop for herself in which she's, going solo for, I would say, 5 days. I don't think she's back. Back incommunicado until really, I think like Monday or Tuesday. So we wish you the very best, Ashni, with everything that you have that's going on there. I know there's a lot you're processing through, and how exciting is that? But we have another High Vibe Tribe birthday coming up, and it's Janie. Yay, Janie.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It's tomorrow.
Is it a big number?
45.
That's Ashni's too.
So is it?
Both of you. You know, when you end in a 5 or a 0, I just feel as though those are like, you know, landmark birthdays. You know, when you hit that 0, you just ended a decade, you're starting a new decade. And when you hit that 5, you know, you're on the other side. You got the 5 more to go of that decade. So you're crossing like the 50% middle of the line mark. But yeah, how do you feel about turning 45?
Well, actually, I have to ask my boyfriend all the time because we're the same age. We were born in the same year. I'm like, how old are we? Because you know, it's just a number. I was remembering yesterday. I was looking at like when I turned 40, and it was all the things I was doing. It was like at Fabulous at 40 I created, and I think we had #1 books that came out.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a big year. I mean, there was a lot of stuff happened that lit the fire to other things. It was, yeah. But it feels like it's gone by in like a flash.
Yeah. Are you thinking that this may be another turning point?
That would be fun.
Like, we're having it.
Yeah.
So Tammy would like to wish you a very happy birthday. Hers is on the 18th.
Another Scorpio.
Yep. So she will be 57 years young. She's laughing her ass off. Happy New Year and new beginnings for you both. So
Yay.
cool. So excited. Love it, love it, love it. Congratulations, both of you. Wow. How much fun are you going to have together?
A lot of it.
Right? Just like this incredible, you know, gift that that shows up in a sense when you've got a birthday, because it's like celebrating and you can let things go and you're older and you're more mature and it's like another year's passed and you know you get to do a little like retrospecting on, you know, who you are, where you'd like to be. It's almost like a do-over. You know, the whole cycle starts again. And you know, what's so interesting about that is that plants are like that too. You know, plants have a cycle that they go through and they have the rings, you know, on the trees that show, you know, their lifeline, you know, their lives. You can count them on the rings on a tree. And you can, when you study those, you can tell so much about what was happening. You know, if it was a dry year, a wet year, a forest fire, you know, you can tell based on the rings. And that's the little I know about plants and whatnot. I do talk to plants, though. I do have some interesting conversations. So I'm excited to introduce our guest. We're going to bring Priscilla back on with us. Yeah, so please welcome our special guest, Tigerilla. She is always eager to learn more. She has studied some of the greatest minds in bio-inspired sciences. She's gained a master's degree in future vegetable, and it's Vegeta Future. I think that may be Italian, where she's gained, where plants and its social innovation designed under Stefano Mancuso, and that sounds Italian also, University of Florence, I may be right. She has also studied biomimicry for social innovation and product development under Dania Baumeister, co-founder of Biomimicry 3.8. So excited to have you here. She is going to share an incredible amount of information, science, technology, and awareness that she's received through her studies and also within her life. So welcome so much, Tigerilla. Woohoo!
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so glad you're here. So I know you've had a power-packed week with lots of appearances and lots of things have been happening for you. So thank you for agreeing to be with us. We are so blessed to have you here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, so take us back to, you know, when you were a kid, because you're not originally from Italy. Am I right? You're from the States?
Correct.
From here with
Correct.
us? And I think
I'm another Florida girl, just kind of like you. I'm there.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Miami.
Yeah, she's a Miami.
I am.
Miami lady. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So how did you get to Italy?
Ooh, okay, let's see. I'll try to do the condensed version since sometimes it goes a little long. So, like I said, I'm a Miami girl. I actually went to the University of Miami, so I studied music engineering and electrical engineering there. And when I finished, I actually got hired all the way across the country. So I ended up in Seattle, Washington. So I went into the world of high tech, into the world of kind of internet innovation, and worked bringing audio and video online, and then also at Microsoft. And then there came a point where I was like, really wanted to go back to my musical roots. I had sort of started in the arts. Again, music, technology, always two things that went hand in hand. And so I eventually left Microsoft and opened my first company where I was producing large scale events, large dance parties, opportunities for people to really connect with themselves through music and the arts and performance and all those different aspects, and a lot of spirituality. So that's kind of where I also reconnected back into my spiritual path. I mean, growing up in Miami, there's certain kinds of spirituality that are sort of just ingrained in the culture, and you don't realize it until you go away. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people when things are sort of taken away from you or out of context. You start to recognize the things that you're really missing. And so I started to dive deeper into my spirituality. I was diving deeper into all of my creativity, and I eventually left the United States. God, it's almost been, it's been 14 years ago, actually. I've been out of the country, and I left on a tour with Cirque du Soleil. My partner at the time wanted a job with Cirque. He was working for me, producing in my events. And so we worked that manifestation and ended up coming into Europe on tour with Cirque du Soleil, which was a wonderful experience. When I came off tour, I decided I didn't really want to go back to the US yet. I wasn't ready for it. So I traveled and eventually landed in Barcelona. I spent 3 years in Barcelona, which was amazing, and I love it. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. I, at that time, was teaching. By this point, I was teaching sacred geometry and Kabbalah. So being a Kabbalist is sort of kind of the base core of who I am. So you have all the artistic perspective, you have all of the technological perspective, and then you have this really, really strong spiritual perspective for me. And these are sort of the crux, the main points of my life. And then one day a friend of mine came into town and she was like, I'm heading over to Italy and there's this community we keep hearing about. What if we go and visit it? And so we did. We planned a little trip. We met up in Milan and drove these tiny little windy roads to get to this place called Damanhur. And Damanhur is one of the largest spiritual eco-communities in the world. It was founded in the 1970s. There were temple builders and so many different things. And being here over the weekend was an amazing experience where I got to meet a few different people who asked me if I would be willing to come to Damanhur to work on a project. And I thought, sure. I mean, I follow the synchronicity, and I thought about it, and people were like, are you going to move there? I'm like, no. Like, living with 20 people in a house, I think I'd kill somebody. Like, there's just no way I'm going to do that. But I came here thinking I was going to be here for 6 months, and I was going to be moving back to Barcelona. And almost 10 years later, I'm still here. And I've been a citizen of Damanhur ever since. And here is where I fell in love with the plant world. I came here to work on technology again, so kind of coming back out of my roots relating to technology and stepping back into a community that's all about obviously spirituality and a lot of art and the creative arts in general. And so it's just another beautiful way to bring these pieces of it. And here's where I kind of fell in love with the plant world. Really started to connect to the plant world, specifically through music, through a device called the Music of the Plants that was developed here in Damanhur. And it's a device that allows plants to make music. And that music for me was like listening to a foreign language, but that I could kind of understand. you know, kind of like if you grow up immersed in a place where you know a language, you hear it, but you've never really learned it, but you sort of kind of can understand some of it. And for me, working with listening to the plants make music, all of a sudden brought me into their world, helped me understand that they were communicating, that they had things to say, and they had, more importantly, things to teach. And that was it. I was hooked. So over the last few years, as you said, I went back. I got my master's degree in the University of Florence, and it was a very amazing program because it's kind of unique. It's one of a kind. Dr. Stefano Mancuso is one of the kind of most world-renowned people around plant intelligence and plant neurobiology. And so having the opportunity to step into this world more deeply and bringing plants into the conversation, bringing plants into the foreground was just an experience that I feel really privileged to have been able to have and to bring into my repertoire of everything else that I do and am.
So I was asked, Tigerilla, if it was herbalist or horticulturist or something else. What, because I know you're nature-inspired leadership mentor. Does it fall into either of those categories or something completely different?
It's something completely different.
She's shaking her head, no, Susan, no.
No. So I work with a lot of people who are all kinds of professions, from architects to landscape architects to horticulture to botany, everything. So my specialization is more of how do we look at plants as mentors, as models, and as really as measures and collaborators, right? How do we look to the plant world to understand a whole new logic and a whole new understanding that we ourselves think of ourselves, when we think of nature, we think of nature as something we visit. So we participate in nature. It's something we observe, but we forget that we are nature. And so my work is really about helping people understand that when you look at the plant world specifically, although it's nature in general, you're looking at a mirror of yourself with a whole new logic and a whole new way of being. And so therefore, there's so many things that we can learn because we are one. And at the same time, we can collaborate because we have two completely different ways of approaching the world. And therefore, there's so much richness in that diversity that can be applied. And it helps us better understand some of the things that we're doing wrong as human beings. We're doing wrong because we're negating our own nature. And so when we connect into the plant world, we can start to really step deeper into that.
Yeah, I can imagine exactly what you're talking about, in the fact that when I used to grow up in Western Massachusetts, there was like the weekend is when everyone in the neighborhood, all the dads would be cutting the lawn. Mm-hmm. And when they would cut the lawn, you would have this aroma that would come up. And I always had this like understanding that like the grass was telling the other grass that it's about to get cut. You know, like there's this like information that gets sent out. Like, mm-hmm. I know we do telepathy. I don't know, do plants have telepathy too, or maybe it's another something that's like unseen? It's not like the English language. It's not like Italian or English language, right. But I can always perceive, and I can always hear like the grass in the front yard was going, oh, backyard grass, like get ready. He's coming. Here comes the blows. You're getting a haircut. So I don't, does that resonate with you? Does that?
Absolutely. Well, it is from a physiological perspective. That is exactly what's happening. What's happening is that front grass is like setting out a chemical signal to the other grass saying, hey, by the way, prepare for this. And this is how they're able to survive. This is how they adapt to that, what we would consider to be trauma, but to them is really an everyday experience, right? Okay, right now you guys sending a message to me, letting me know I'm going to be cut. So I'm going to change the way that I operate. So I'm going to modify where all of my nutrients are going. I'm going to modify the way that I experience things so that you can come and cut and it doesn't actually create a problem for me. And that's exactly what plants do. And then they do this on many different ways, right? We as humans know about five kind of physical senses we have. From a Damanhurian perspective, we also have another 5 non-physical senses. But there's some studies that say that, you know, humans might have up to like 54 senses, and there's many different ways of looking at it. But we know for a fact plants have at least 20 different senses, so different ways that they can understand and check out what's happening and know what's going on and are aware of their environment and can send messages back and forth using all of these other types of senses. And there is actually a study that shows that plants even have senses that we don't know what they are. So some call it plant telepathy because science, from that perspective, doesn't know. And this is the reason why the work that I do as mentorship and also when I'm teaching plant communication brings together all of that. The science part, because there's so much that's there. The spirituality, because we sometimes have to go beyond what the science knows today to look at the things that we intuitively know and feel, and that when we work with them can reawaken those pieces. And then there's also the artistic part, because we don't actually have a language for this. We don't have a way to see it or hear it or think about it even. And through the arts, we're able to use sort of a different kind of aspect of our minds so that we can integrate it into ourselves without having to give it a logical conclusion. And so bringing these 3 aspects together allows us to really expand our own perceptions, expand our own senses into things that we today are leaving dormant because we're just so used to talking about it. We're so used to being able to think about it. And we're not so used to feeling it. We're not so used to being it. And the plants are really great at that. And that's another one of those ways that when we work together with them, when we can communicate with them, when we can collaborate with them, when we can observe them, not look at them, but observe them, then we can start to express these other and dormant parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? You know, in terms of, you were saying that you did a lot to do with the music and then you became involved with the plants. So how does your perception about the music of plants affect your life? Because obviously plants have a song and have a tune. And I think there has been studies where they actually do record the sound of the plants.
So there's 2 different things. Again, here we go with, there is a biological sound and there is a bioacoustics. Plant bioacoustics is a whole area of study pioneered by a woman named Dr. Monica Galliano, who is in Australia, and she's actually Italian, but she lives in Australia, and she's kind of one of the pioneers in this whole plant bioacoustics, which is the literally physical sounds that plants make, from clicking noises and what those might mean and why they exist. And then there's another side of it, which is the music of the plants and devices like that, which allows us to use the electrical responses of plants, because again, plants being sessile, which means rooted, that means that they move a lot. They just can't run away. They can't go anywhere easily. I have to say that if you take one of my courses, you'll learn that they move a lot and they can go in a lot of different directions. It's just in a different time frame than what we're used to. But the point being is that this device allows us to use the electrical responses of plants, which are very refined and are based on the plant's decision making. So the plant has an ability to understand the environment and then to send out these electrical impulses based on what's happening. And this is like a musical instrument for plants. So it's literally a device that the plants learn how to play, kind of like I know how to move my hands in order to play a guitar. A plant can learn how to modify the electrical signals to make tunes of music, which can be either their own tunes or they can play along with other plants or human musicians. And so we have interspecies music that happens. So when I was talking about myself, I originally sort of stepped into the world of plants through that device, listening to music that plants were making and especially hearing the interspecies music. So for example, in my courses, I use a lot of plant music. I have meditations with plant music because I also study, I do medical research into the effects of plant music on human health, because there's been a lot of, over the years of us having this device, there's been a lot of anecdotal data that's been coming in talking about the healing aspects. It's almost as if the plants are able to take their own healing modalities and their own healing. I mean, the plants are the basis of all of our medicine, right? So we know that plants have the ability to heal us. And so that combined with like a music therapy aspect gives this sort of boost that plants can connect to. So I have this medical team that I work with, and we literally study that. So healing meditations, or meditations in general's journeys, is another way for us to connect into the plant world and to go deeper into what is the plant mind, which again is a mirror of sorts of what is the capabilities within our own mind.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, and it takes it so much further than, I used to be a first grade school teacher, and I left before the concept came in of like there was just no bullying allowed in my classroom. It was like non-negotiable. I used to be a girls director at a Boys and Girls Club, and they gave me the teenage girls. That was always an interesting summer camp to run. And it was just non-negotiable. Like there was no bullying. And as soon as the first one came out, it was squashed in like, I went through it when I was a kid. And so it just was not going to happen. And so whether you got new glasses or braces, or you got your hair cut, whatever it was, you are just amazing the way you are, whether you stutter or you sing or you trip and fall. We're just all, at the time, we're all just like girls kind of a thing. So I remember, being a school teacher and learning that they were using bullying. They were using plants to help kids learn about bullying. And so they took, the same kind of plant, and they had a wall, and they had the happy plant, and they had the bad plant, or the angry plant. And you could be happy with the happy plant. You could share and talk to and give it compliments. And the other plant, the unhappy plant, I'm not sure if it was good or bad, however they did it, but it was a polarity anyways, that you could like ridicule it and name call it and do all this kind of stuff. Well, it didn't take long, but that plant started to die. And the other one was flourishing and ended up with a flower, budding on it. And so, that was so powerful. The kids, to see how, because we're biological also, just like the plants are, that's what it does to our cells, bullying. That's what it does to our energy, our frequency. And you killed a plant, or you like helped it nurture it. So is this like an element? I feel like you've just taken that and you've expanded on it so much further.
Yeah, that's really the principles of it. It's that aspect of the fact that we are connected, we are united, we are one in one aspect. And so therefore there's just so many, it's like meeting a person and they are, there's plant personhood, and it's a person that you're meeting, an individual, because each plant obviously has had their own experiences. You could have two of the same species, as you just explained, right? Two same species plants growing up even very similar, right? They're both in the school, but one of them is on one side, the other one is on the other. They're getting, the same light, they're getting the same nourishment, but they're getting something else that's different. And so that means that each plant has a different experience. The same thing is if, two trees that are sitting in a park, one of them is getting a little bit more sun. Maybe one of them is getting people that pass by and pet, and say hello, while another one instead is maybe more in the dark and is getting a different experience. And so they have other things to teach us. They see the world through very different eyes. I mean, they do have photoreceptors. They can see, but they see it in a way that is very different. And so when we start to communicate with them, when we observe their functions, when we see what they give and how they create community more than anything, right? Because the basis of most ecosystems are plants. But we live in this plant blindness. We live in this ability that when we stop and we think about plants, we recognize how important they are. But when we're walking down the street, we don't notice how many plants we step on. We don't notice how many plants we pull the leaves from. When we cut the grass, we just think we're cutting grass. We might know they're communicating, but we still don't stop and think, wait a minute, should I be cutting this grass? So there's like all these aspects that are never, and they're not that one is good and one is bad. It's about our lack of awareness, and that lack of awareness translates into a lack of awareness in everything, in so many aspects. We're just not consciously making our decisions. So the work that I do takes all of this plant guidance and then puts it into your hands as saying, well, as a leader of my life, right? As a leader of my teams, but as a leader also in my family, as a leader of my own organism, right? Because I'm a multi-cell organism, I'm multi-dimensional, I have all these aspects. I have to lead this engine, and the only way I can lead it is if I lead it with awareness and consciousness. Otherwise, I run the risk of some danger, of really harming others in the process of trying to do the right thing. And so when we work with them, they're able to see us because they do this on a regular basis. They have to take ecosystems in which they live in and keep those healthy. I mean, even the work of, there's one scientist, Susan Simard, who I love her work. Many of us have heard of it as like the mother trees, right? She's the person that discovered the fact that in a forest, there's usually a series of trees considered hub trees that take care of the overall environment. And so these trees are really acutely aware of what's happening around them and who needs nourishment, what nourishment, how much do I give of myself? They create relationships that we kind of do subconsciously, but then we resent them because we don't bring them into our conscious awareness. So when we bring all this stuff up to the level of conscious awareness, all of a sudden these decisions become easier. And when we recognize the fact that we are that ecosystem and that we live across multiple lives, we have a whole series of different perceptions, we can even sort of take on certain types of relationships that might seem harmful in the short term, but at the same time, we know how to create the long-term mutually beneficial relationships that are going to help. I mean, I like that Tammy writes in her comment that when her husband died, he used one of his favorite trees, right? And the other oak began dying. So, this connected, that's that connection that we have to trees. And sometimes they give, actually, oftentimes we give, right? Here I am sitting here. I'm sitting with a desk in front of me that's made out of wood. I've had my dinner, which was made out of mainly plants. I have my clothes on, which is made out of fibers. Plants willingly give their lives for us. And sometimes they do that even as a reaction to our emotional states. And so even there, bringing that conscious awareness helps us say, well, wait a minute, when do I let go of certain things and let things, quote unquote, die? Because that's the way I keep the ecosystem healthy. That's the way that I actually, in the long term, stay healthy. So all of these are just little tidbits of things that when we start to connect with that natural world, we feel a need that we as humans have, what's called biophilia, my innate need to connect to life, my innate need of nature. And that without it, there's a hole in me. There's a part of me that's always sick, that's missing. And so when I reconnect, and I reconnect especially with the plant kingdom, which is 85% of the biomass of our planet, like all of a sudden now it's like this missing part of me that just comes to the surface, and I can now understand new parts of myself and then translate that out into my actions.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I'm going to pull up Janie for a minute here because Janie does galactic code work with DNA. And I know that plants, they don't have DNA, do they?
They do. Actually, it's 5 times more complex than the human DNA.
Okay, so they do have. I didn't know if it was called DNA or plasma or something.
No, it's DNA.
Okay, so plant DNA and our DNA. Janie, is there's something that you maybe want to ask Tigerilla, or do you have an awareness about our DNA and plant DNA?
Well, and Tigerilla, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you asked that question, Susan, my intuition was like, yes, that everything living actually has a DNA, including the earth. Which that's interesting. So what I was getting is that is part of what helps us resonate and be in harmony with each other.
Is the earth DNA? Or plant.
The DNA. Like we have DNA, they have DNA. It's a connection point.
Oh, so maybe our DNA speaks? Our DNA talks?
Yes.
Our DNA sings? So, everything's energy. Like every molecule has consciousness. So I'm not at all surprised that, we're talking about, plants now, animals another time, our DNA, telepathy, every molecule has consciousness. So it's almost like a question, Tigerilla, about like, are we willing to perceive, know, be, and receive from all the consciousness, which includes, because there is no separation. So you were talking about a forest that has like hug trees that are like, you said hugging. Am I right? Did you say
Hub.
that?
No, hub.
Hub.
H-U-B, like a hub.
Hug.
The mother tree.
Susan wants the forest where you walk in and the trees hug her.
I'm just waiting for it, right? It's gonna happen. So I have like these huge older trees. Like we have bought my property because it's like the oldest phase in the subdivision, and so they have all the original trees. They didn't clear the entire lot when they went and built a house. So I have the original trees that are here, and they're just huge, and their roots are deep, and their roots are like pulling up my driveway, and it's not that much fun when they like go through my piping system, but it's okay. It's okay. It's a tree. But there's this one tree that's like a healing tree, and it greets me when I drive in the driveway. It's like so interesting. It waves, kind of a thing. Do you find that to be truthful? There's a friend of mine, John Springer, and he does an enchanted walk, and he points out the fairies and dragons and trolls and gnomes, and he says to the people that go on this walk with him, he goes, "Do you see that tree right there? It's waving at you. Wave back, and you'll see what happens." And they'll wave at this tree branch that's like going like this in the wind, and then the branch stops. It's like, I've not been able to go on one. They happen very early in the morning, and of course, I'm not a morning person at all. I may just end up staying up all night one night and just go and then go to bed when I get back. But yes, is that possible? Is that like, tell us some of the magic?
Yeah, there's so many encounters people have had with plants and trees, and definitely this is one of those pieces, right? That piece of individual recognition. And this is what happens, especially when you go out and you observe a plant for a long period of time, whether that be, we at Dumb and Her here, for example, at our house, almost all of our houses have what's called a greeting tree. And a greeting tree is a tree that when you arrive, because when you arrive in one of our territories, the first thing you see is not the humans usually, but the territory itself, right? The trees and the plants of all sorts, the animals, the nature spirits, the spirits of the place. So therefore, when you go and you greet this tree, you're greeting every single being that exists, including the humans, in that territory. And this helps us, again, to step one step beyond that plant blindness. But when you start doing this, you'll recognize, now all of a sudden, you'll start to recognize the individual nature of these trees. I was speaking with Ariel Patricia, who is the founder of Sacred Stories Publishing and Sacred You Online Learning. And she was saying how once she started to take my course, she started to recognize the individual personalities of the plants that she encountered on a regular basis. And so therefore she had started to come up with different trees and different types of plants that she goes to for different advice. There's maybe some that have much more, like, for example, on my territory, my greeting tree, the Himalayan cedar, is a tree that has developed one whole program connected to blocks. This is a tree that sees so many people that come and greet this tree, that come to it. So has a very good understanding of different personalities, where we also have the oldest tree in all of the Dominant Hurrian territories here, Amok, which is an ancient oak tree. And I developed another program with Amok, which was really more about that going deeper inside of yourself and understanding where your blocks are coming from, because Amok's been here for 350 years by, like that's the experience of this one tree. Those 350 years, those 375 years actually, is the personalized experience, not counting even all of the connections that tree has. So the tree is able to understand how is it that humans tick over that period of time. What is it, some of the things that we get blocked in? Where do those blocks form, which were originally probably to help you, because maybe, I don't know, your ability, your sense of being very quiet comes from the fact that when you were in a past life, or when you were a child, something was happening, you needed to make yourself invisible. So at one point it was helpful, but then it became a block going forward. And so this is something that he can work with, because he's seen it in so many different people and so many different experiences. So that's really part of it, that personal development, as well as that connected development that we could do when we step into this relationship.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Is there something that people can do right now, today, that would kind of support the connection and the integration almost of plants into their lives as, a mentor or a facilitator? Because a lot of times, kids facilitate the parents, like the parents learn from the kids kind of a thing, even though we think we're older, we don't, we got that backwards.
Right.
Right. And how many animals like teach us so much? And so what if this is like the next step, adding plant communication, into our lives? What can we do? How can we get connected?
Yeah. So an easy way, a super easy way, is almost everybody has a houseplant, right? Now, the first thing would be to start waking up from that plant blindness, would be to think of your houseplant as another member of your family, right? Today, the houseplant oftentimes is ornamental. You might love your houseplant, but it's still ornamental. You greet the cat in the morning, you greet the dog in the morning, you greet your husband or your wife or your roommate, but you forget to greet the plants. So that's one kind of way of starting to bring the plant into the family. And then to do this would be to take some time with that plant. I always recommend everybody to have a nature journal, or a journal that you work with, mainly to record everything, because plants don't operate in the logic that we're used to. So it's not like, when I sit there in meditation and all of a sudden I start, journaling out what I feel. And it's really kind of logical, like emotional or whatever. I might get something like, I don't know, a scene when my Aunt Sally gave me a pair of socks. Write it down anyway, because for whatever reason, that maybe the feeling you had when Aunt Sally gave you those socks, or maybe what happened in that day that Aunt Sally gave socks, later on will start to make sense in the message that the plant wants to give you. But so go to your houseplant and first of all, close your eyes for a second, because we as humans use the sense of sight is our dominant sense, where for example, dogs, the sense of smell is the dominant sense. So we want to eliminate that, because we rely too much on it. And we tend to think we understand what a plant is or feels or experiences by what we see. Like, oh, there's a brown spot, so that must be they're not happy or something like that. And that's, we anthropomorphize, we put human emotions. So if instead you close your eyes and you come near your houseplant and you just first of all sit for a second and let yourself just sort of experience that. And then start with another sense. Reach out. Touch not just the leaves of the plant, but maybe the parts you don't normally touch, like the stem, a little bit of the roots, the soil. What comes up for you? What experiences? Don't try to logically process it, but just try to record it as much as possible. And then slowly bring in the other senses. Smell. Have you ever smelled your houseplant if it's not a flower? Like, what do the leaves smell like? What does the soil smell like? What does the area around the plant smell like? And then go a little bit further. Okay, so you've got touch, you've got smell. What about the sense of taste? Like what happens when I literally like maybe lick a leaf, or lick a flower, or even maybe put my try to taste other little pieces of it. Maybe I use, when I did the sense of touch, the back of my hand or my cheek, like not just the tips of my hands that I'm used to, but bringing in other senses. What happens to my arm? And go through all of your senses, with the sight being last. With the sight, though, going through and literally looking at every part, going up close, going far away, going around. What is the view from the plant's point of view? What does the plant see? Or what does the plant smell? So introducing these senses, either all in one shot or just in little stages where you experience and then maybe journal. And again, don't try to process. I'm very big. Anybody who takes my courses, you'll hear me say it over and over again. Do not try to process what you receive at the moment that you receive it. Record it, because anybody who works with any kind of being outside of the normal human being knows that it's just not the same logic. So anything could be a symbol of something. And if you try to process it too quickly, you're going to just try to go to your easiest emotion, and you're not going to go deep enough for it. So this would be my encouragement for you to do. Just start to really connect with your houseplants.
I love that. I love adding the plant to the family. Maria says that she has orchids and they don't like too much love or they die on her. So she tends to leave them alone and they flourish. So it's kind of like knowing what your plant requires and doesn't require.
Yeah. And the fact that your plant is not human. And we tend to think of like everybody always a lot of people come to me and talk to me and they're like, oh, I love hugging trees. And I'm like, don't do it. Once in a while, sure, because you need a hug. Right. But the tree doesn't need a hug. The tree is just as happy. If you want to think of the word happy, the tree experiences you in a whole different way. And their bark is not meant to be touched on a regular basis. That's not what it's there for. So therefore, you don't have to touch it in that. You might touch it when you're doing a connection with intention, but that's because you need it for your intention, and that's okay too. But you're not doing it for the tree; you're doing it for yourself.
Right? Yeah. It was interesting. One of when I work with clients, it's an energetic kind of download thing, and sometimes Mother Earth will kind of come. And she's like a little kid when she shows up, Tigerilla. She kind of like pulls my little pant leg. She goes like that to get my attention. I'm like, oh, Mother Earth. Oh, okay. And then she'll give me information for the client. And sometimes she'll ask the client for grounding, to go out barefoot on the ground and to put their spine up against the back of a tree, like, well, the side of a tree. I guess there is no front or back on trees, right? I mean, it's a circle. It's never ending love. There's no quarters. But to put their spine back on the tree. And it's, she just says like that I'm giving you that is going to be shift in the change. That's going to help you eliminate some of the stuff that you'd like to get rid of. And it's pretty dynamic when the clients get back to me. They're like, I had this amazing, I went out and I think the wind was talking to me. I felt a leaf fell off the tree and landed on my shoulder. Somebody else, like, I had these, this grass was rubbing up against my leg. And I was like, of course it is.
Yep.
It was all part of like, how it's all connected. Like there's no separation and it all contributes to it. Yeah, so cool. In fact, Ashni, one of our High Vibe Tribe members who's not here with us this week, she said to me, so this plant that's been at my house for years and years and years would like to come to your house. Can it come to your house? And I'm like, really? She's like, yes, it says it would like to come. I was like, okay, bring the plant over to my house. So she brings the plant over to my house, right? And when I say like I don't have a point of view, it's not like I don't care. It's like, okay, I'm like, if the plant would like to come, let the plant come. It's a field trip. All right, bring the plant, right? So it came over. Oh my goodness, I made this whole stand for it, and I got this marble slate thing on top of the stand, and I have it there, and it has grown so much, and it's like bending over the side, and I keep taking periodic pictures for her, and she's got these new shoots coming up, and I gave it a food stick, and she's like, see, I just knew that it you know, come to your house. And I know you were talking about the different senses, Tigerilla, of like taste, smell, touch, before you even look at it. Even when I water my plants, I talk to the water, and I imprint the water with vitamins and minerals and nutrients and allow that to contribute to the plant. So when I water them, I'm still infusing that, happy, joy, gratitude, like, thank you for being here. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. And that came from Dr. Emoto. When you put words on water, you can change it, shift its, genetic code. What is it? The cellular structure of water. So why not plants, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so cool. What are people in our audience saying? Tammy's saying, I have done that, Susan. Oh, good, Tammy. I am so happy. Maria's laughing at us for some reason. Let's see what she's laughing about. Give me a lift to Susan's house. Oh, you can come. I'll water you too, Maria. You can come, Maria. That is so funny. Yeah. So, wow, that is really incredible. And I get that, like, kids will get this faster than we will. Do you have like a program for kids and adults? Is it all inclusive? I know you have one that you just launched on a new platform and are very excited about, and you have a link you have given us to share with our audience. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is my signature program. It's called Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom. I have put everything I have into this. It's 7 modules. And it goes through basically starting with a foundation of what is plant perception, like all these terms that we sometimes hear, plant intelligence, plant neurobiology, all these different aspects of it. And then it starts going through building up to build this relationship with plants and this communication, but really going at a deeper level. So we start with, for example, module 2 is all around life and death cycles, understanding that plants periodically live through these cycles in ways. And so again, if we're as mirrors, we need to look at the cycles of the seasons, the cycles of the moon and the sun, but also the cycles of I'm working on something and I let it go, or the cycles of different aspects of, or even a physical life itself. And it really transforms the way you look at life and death, because we as humans oftentimes are born really just worrying about death rather than living life. Then the next module, which is module 3, is all about ecosystems, because that's what communities are, right? That's what we are right here. We are an ecosystem right now, made up of a diverse people that have diverse experience. Everyone that is participating, whether they're watching or one of us that's on the video, we're still all a part of this ecosystem. And plants are fantastic at understanding how to use the best parts of every single one to create mutually beneficial relationships, and as well as to nurture others without hurting themselves or doing what's best for the overall environment. But the 4th module goes a step deeper, which says we still, though, are individuals. We're humans. We're sometimes afraid of communities because we're afraid of losing our individuality. So the fourth module is all about being an interrelated individual. How do plants show us their individualness, their rootedness, while still being a part of a whole and something greater? So I can have that dual identity always without it being something that is dueling against, but instead something that's flowing together. The 5th module is about what we were talking about, that the plants signal in so many different ways that we can contact them beyond distances. So when we start to learn that there's so many new ways to connect to plants, we can connect to plants through dreams, we can connect to plants through surrogate plants, we can connect directly, we can connect at a large distance. And going through those exercises, we can expand our own connections with ourselves, because now we start to learn new techniques of communicating with other beings, practicing first with plants, but that'll extend naturally into human beings. Sixth module is always a little bit of a scary one for some people because it's all about food. Food. The majority of our diet is plants. And so when you start to really learn about plant intelligence, one of the first questions vegans especially ask me is, what am I supposed to eat now? So we go through what is the science that shows why plants want to be eaten, and what does that mean, and how does that actually change into a much more sustainable and regenerative life when we're connected. We eat differently, we eat better, not because somebody tells me to, but because my connection with the plants themselves help me realize when I'm going too much or too little or what I need, and that reconnection with my body through the reconnection with their body. And then the last module is all about healing and adapting to changing conditions. Now that we've completely reconnected through those first six, it's natural for us to see some of the parts in our lives that are missing and how they fill that void. And so we go into the fact that plants are super resilient, but they're also really flexible at the same time. And how can we mimic that structure? How does biomimicry and how does small, simple rules help us understand our own flexibility and our own ability to heal and to become a part of this whole structure so that we can flow better with changes. And right now 2020 is that year of changes, and so this is really timely and necessary big changes to understand how this is exactly. So the course is really about that full, that's why it's called Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom, because it really is about stepping into yourself by stepping into this deeper connection with them and learning how to become a really deep leader. What I love about the course is that also it has a lot of support. Besides the fact that it's on a network where I'm still there, and it's got exercises that you can do both indoors and outdoors. It has meditations with plant music. It has prompts for you to journal with. It has video lectures in these bite-sized chunks. It's got so many different things for you to be able to incorporate new ways of learning, and you do it all at your own pace. Plus, you get invited in for 2 months to my Naturally Conscious Leadership Group, which is a membership group with lots of support, ritual, leadership activities, all kinds of fun facts about plants, really about using this knowledge in your daily life, whether you're talking about business development or personal development. So you get those 2 months of support with me, and then you can continue on if you like. So it's a really fun class. Everybody who's ever taken it, I turned it into this new format where it's at your own pace, because the answer I was getting from everybody on the feedback forms was, every class feels like you're jamming 150% of information into an hour. I need time to process it. So it's just so much there.
Yeah.
I can't overload.
You know what just popped up when you were explaining your different modules, Tigerilla, is parenthood. Mm-hmm. Like plant parenthood, planned parenthood. And, this is just energetically what this came up. So back when we were in high school, when the kids would take the parenting class, they would have to take an egg or a pound of flour, sugar, and dress it up. Yep. And take care of it, and everyone tried to attack it and kill it and make you drop it and all that kind of stuff. So there's the parenting kind of, and it's planned, right? So I sort of feel if you were going to suggest a house plant, a type of house plant for people to get that would be a great place to start, say they don't have one or they'd like to start fresh with one, what would be the plant that you would recommend?
Ooh, that's a hard one. It's a hard one because I want everybody to have a general connection. Here's what I'll say. There are some plants that have a much stronger connection to humans because they have been indoors for such a long time. They've actually adapted. Many of them were tropical plants that literally adapted to indoor conditions in order to have this human experience, right? So these are plants that things like a spider plant, for example, chlorophyto, or a plant such as a peace lily. These are all, or potus. If you go and you look at wild potus is huge. The family ingenious, there's huge ones out there. And these are that we have inside of our house have really adapted to be in dark environments. These are full sun plants that have learned how to be this. So there are several different types of houseplants that are really great because they're kind of they make it easy for us as humans to work with them, as opposed to something like, for example, an orchid, which is more of a little bit of a diva. And as you know, we just previously heard, it's like, just leave me alone. I don't really want you to spend too much time with me. Just watch. Just look at me. As opposed to something like a spider plant or a potus or a peace lily, for example, which are plants that tend to be, my mother was a great example of this. I came to her house one time, and my mother lives in South Florida. I had given her a peace lily. My mother is not a plant conscious type of person. And I came home, and she comes downstairs and she looks and she's like, where's my plant? And I was like, well, she's over here. I was listening to the music of the plant, so I moved her to another location. She's like, no, that's where she wants to be. You have to put her back where she goes. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, look, it took me a long time to understand where she wanted to be, but I know she wants to be there. So you put her back there. I'm like, I'll put her back there. So here's this person who has no connection. She doesn't even know why she's saying this. She has no idea how she knows where the plant wants to be. But sure enough, the plant is thriving because she intuitively connected to the plant, and the plant expressed, I want to be here. And she listened to it. So that's the type of relationship where it's still not conscious for her, but she's choosing. Ferns are fantastic plants, tend to be much more a little wild. They're some of the oldest plants in the planet. They're one of the first land plants that ever came. And so exactly, they're not really, unless you're talking about like, what's it called? I was about to say something wrong. There's a type of fern that does grow really well inside, and I can't remember. It's something hair. It's like a hair fern. I can't remember it. They tend to grow really well inside, but some of the kind of more wild ferns, I wouldn't take those and bring them in. Another one is a sansevieria, which is another great plant. Also one that's great because it does not reverse its breathing pattern at night like most plants do, so it's still producing oxygen at night, which is a really nice thing to have in your bedroom, for example. Yeah. Or some kind of ivy. Have
you heard of aloe?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, aloe is another great plant, and depending if you're in a tropical environment or if an environment that has that kind of light and sun, then aloe is great. I have an aloe right outside of of this window here. So, and I agree. Maria Fernanda says, that we should have go to a nursery and see what plant calls to you. I agree. That would be my number one response.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah, I only say that there is that it's about really making that connection, and whether you make that connection because the plant calls to you, or you make that connection because you start working with a plant, then that's great. And the food question will come up, and this is something I address a lot in Reconnect with the Plant Kingdom. So go off and take Plant Reconnect, and you will get an answer relating to that food question, because it's not one we can treat in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So we're going to open it up to questions in our audience. If you are our watchers and listeners, if you have any questions for Tigerilla on plants, on you, on experiences that you've had, Priscilla and Janie, if you have any thoughts or questions that you would like to add in, feel free to jump in. Tigerilla, everything you were sharing about your plant program really is infused with energetic frequencies, whether it be with music, with all our 5 senses, with their 5 senses and more senses, and the connection that what if this is what we've been asking for? Mm-hmm. Like that is what's sort of coming up. And I knew it because when you were talking about your program, I was like, our government here in the United States should take the program. About getting along and doing a community and lying and cheating and stealing and all that kind of stuff. And then you go and name a POTUS plant.
Exactly.
President of the U.S. I was like, bam. There it is.
It's true. I hadn't even thought about it.
That was really funny.
I think the program should go global and it should go political. It should be part of the Politician 101 program. Before you can become a politician, you've got to take the POTUS program.
That would be awesome.
That's just me, though.
Maybe they should be given a plant when they take the oath. You know, they've got a spirit oath on the plant.
And they have to keep the plant alive the entire 4 years.
That's it. That's it. And grow it.
And say hello to it in the morning in the Oval Office. Good morning.
Exactly.
So glad you're here.
The planter says no, we're not allowed to go to war.
They have to have a plan.
We must have peace.
The war room. The war room. Oh my goodness.
That's funny. You know, somebody told me a long time ago, they were like, if you're thinking about having a baby or getting a dog, you should get a plant. And if you can take care of the plant, and if the plant thrives, then move on to like an animal. And if you can handle the two of them, then think about having a child.
Right. I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if that was part of parenting? You know, when we became parents, they didn't give us a 101 handbook on babies, infancy, breastfeeding, changing diapers. It was just like, you just won. Right? I'm like, what if this program that you have like creates so much greater with parenting, for people? What if it becomes part of like the high school program? It's interesting, right? My son's in college right now. And so there's like the courses you have to take. And one of them happens to be speech, right? Like speech, right? Like that's one of his classes, but we're quarantined. So he talks to the computer anyways. Do you know what I mean? And I just sit there with the camera to film him. So we've just like, and that's what he created, this whole thing. So that was all a different portion of it. But yeah, so I foresee that this can also be like one of the, mandatory, get rid of speech and like get it, or what you can get rid of. And I know I may have mentioned this before, is like they have 2 years mandatory foreign language. All right, let's just like have it out now, right? Like plant language, foreign language. There are so many apps now that will translate better than I could possibly learn in 2 years of any language. And I can get my message answered, my point across, and find out where I need to be and where the bathroom is far faster, quicker, and easier because of the technology that we have available today. So get rid of the foreign language and bring in the plant program. Plant philosophy.
There you go.
Plant physiology. Oh no, I'm making that.
I'm with that.
I have a question actually. So quite a while ago I heard about like the singing forest or the singing plants of something.
Of down here, of where I live.
Yeah, and there's another place too. I think it starts with an S or something. I could be wrong.
S.
So the songs that the plants make, is that special technology that they hook up to it? It's
it's the device.
Frequency.
Yeah, that's what the device basically has 2 electrodes, one that connects to the leaf and the other one that you put into the soil. Mm-hmm. And so it connects to the root system, and therefore it takes the electrical impedance between these two, so the difference between these two electrically, and that's what makes the notes of music. And then you can control what sounds come out of it, but the actual notes are being played by the plant.
Very cool. And one of the it was pretty cool because one of the videos I watched on that, they had people touching the plant or talking to it or sitting near it, and the music would change.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Because of course it's the connection between the human and the plant. So anything you do, any intention you set towards the plant feels it, reacts. I mean, plants are acutely aware of their environment. Think about it. How else could they survive? I mean, they can't go anywhere. They can't run away. That's really one of the crux of the discussion points. It's that understanding that we as humans, unfortunately, have based a lot of our lives on running away. We run away emotionally, we run away physically, we run away from our problems, we bury our head in the sands, we do all kinds of things. Plants can't do that. If they do that, they die. So they've developed all kinds of super clever ways. There's literally a study which I cite in one of the modules that states that plants have learned how to manipulate. They literally manipulate carnivorous, and herbivores and animals in general. They can, through a lot of different mechanisms, which I go into detail, because they've had to. They've had to learn ways of saying they can't just stop and push you away. They have to find all these really clever ways to get you to understand what they need and to kind of move you around. And anybody who has a houseplant that they're connected to knows those days where you're like, oh my God, I need to water them. And all day long, you're like worrying about it. I gotta water the plant when I get home. I gotta water the plant when I get home. And it's like that little message that's like, hello, did you forget about me? And you're like, oh my God, I have to water the plant when I get home.
And then you get home, you're like, what was I supposed to do?
Exactly. And then a little while later, it's like, oh my God, I have to water the plants. And that's them.
Oh.
Yeah, so cool. Tigerilla, before we let you go, what would you like to share, last minute thoughts with us and our audience?
So, wrapping it, I would say the thing that one of the biggest realizations and what I really hope at the core of reconnect with the plant kingdom, whether you reconnect with the course or you reconnect in any way, but that reconnection is so important, is we as human beings are kind of born with, to a certain extent, a low-level fear. We have this low-level fear of death. We have this low-level fear of a whole series of things. And part of what triggers that low-level fear is that lack of biophilic connections. Our cities are built wrong now. We continuously put nature out there rather than nature as something that's really around me. When you start to connect back in, when you really reconnect back into what's happening to that plant connection, you start to understand that, first of all, plants are everywhere. Like, I'm sitting here and there is one plant in my room, the room that I'm in right now in my office, but there's plants underneath the ground. There's plants right outside this window. There's the plants that were made, that gave their lives to make this table. Like, I start to understand that I'm never alone. And I start to understand that plants are always individuals inside of a whole system. And so am I. I have a mind, but I also have an instinctual gut mind. They say that, like, your gut is your second mind. I also have all these different cells inside of me that are individuals, and yet at the same time, they are all working together to create what is me as a human being. And I am working together with all of you to create what is this planet and this world. And so therefore, my hope is that you'll understand when you start to reconnect that you're never alone, ever, 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 ever alone. And that you'll never have that feeling of separation again, because you'll know that you can connect at any single point, at any moment, with any other type of person, whether that be a plant person, an animal person, or a human person, a river person, a mountain person. It doesn't matter, but personhood is all around us, and therefore we are never alone.
Thank you so much. That is an incredibly powerful way to end today's live stream. And what you were saying, it's interesting because Maria, who's watching us now, she connects with horses quite a bit. And, people pay to get in an arena with horses because the horses will facilitate them. They go in with a question, and then the horse will do something that changes their life. So I was wondering if plants are our next mentors. What if plants are our next teachers, right? What if that's our next step in our evolution? Absolutely. To add plants to our curriculum, as well as animal communication, but plants as well.
Yes, I would love it.
What would that like to look like? So I would highly recommend everyone connecting with you. If there are people who weren't able to be with us live because they're either in bed sleeping or they're maybe still at work, would you pop in and they can tag you, or I'll tag you, we'll tag you here in the feed if they have any other questions?
Please do. Yes, I'm always around. I'm always available. You can tag me, catch up with me. You can also follow me on my Facebook page too, and that way we can reconnect ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. We're so grateful to have you here with us. Oh my goodness. Until next Friday, my boys and girls, my friends, my consciousness revolutionaries, my fellow Americans, and all of humanity.
Get your POTUS plant.
Bye.
POTUS plant.
Bye.
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 Bye. Ciao for now. Until then. Bye.